recording?
Oh, right?
Meeting, please come to order. Barbara, please call the roll.
We have Commissioners Levine, Funderburk, Barad, Noonan, and Vasquez present.
This proceeding is broadcast on Channel 35. The exact broadcast times can be found by contacting Channel 35. I have no opening remarks. How many public comment cards do we have, Barbara?
We have 4.
So go ahead and call them.
Okay, the first speaker is Lisa Hart.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Lisa Hart. I'm on the board of the Neighborhood Council Sustainability Alliance. We represent 40 neighborhood councils across the city of Los Angeles. In 2016, our members voted in favor of DWP reaching 100% renewable energy by 2030, and also in favor of making no new fossil fuel investments into the infrastructure. I'm not a climate scientist, but I believe those folks, when they tell me we're in a crisis and we must do whatever we can to reduce emissions. So to me and to our members, it doesn't make sense to continue investing in fossil fuels when we have the opportunity to invest in renewable energy. We're really encouraged by the pause and the technical study, very grateful for that, and we continue to ask that you not invest in scattergood and instead invest in our future. And also, we're happy to do what we can to help. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Graciela
Excuse me.
Gaia.
Don't
Sorry.
go.
Can I ask a question for clarification?
Sure.
I'd like to ask Ms. Hart a question. Can you tell us what neighborhood council you're a board member of?
I'm not on a board. I used to be the chair of the Green Committee for the Silver Lake Neighborhood Council.
But you're not on a
No,
council.
I'm on the board of the Neighborhood Council Sustainability Alliance.
But you're not a member of a neighborhood council presently.
Correct.
How many people are members of neighborhood councils on this alliance?
So we have 40 members. We do not require that the members, that our representatives be board members. So I don't have a specific count right now of how many of our representatives are actually board members, but they're appointed by their boards, and typically they are on their boards.
Thank you.
Does that help? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is Graciela Geyer.
Good morning. My name is Graciela Geyer. I'm here on behalf of the Sierra Club and the My Generation campaign. And I'm also here to speak in thanks and support of the technical study to study clean alternatives to repowering our local coastal gas plants. And really just excited at the opportunity because since the announcement of the pause last June, there has just been such a growing number of announcements of retirements and avoided repowers of other coastal gas plants, and really that it's kind of a trend now that other utilities and regulators are starting to question really the wisdom of investing at this point in new gas plants when there are cost competitive and viable clean alternatives. And you know, as Ms. Hart said, we're here to help, and we're very excited about the opportunity to avoid 46% of our current gas generation. It will get us so much further toward that 100% goal that we really want to continue to be the city that is a climate leader and the example that everyone else can follow. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is Kent Minalt.
Hey, good morning, Commissioners. I'm Kent Minot with the Sierra Club. I've just been working on this little math problem. I wanted to share it with you and then ask a question. Scattergood Unit 3 was repowered back in 2013 at a cost of $950 million. Scattergood Units 1 and 2 are being considered for repowering at a cost of $630 million. One unit, $950 million, 2 units, $630 million. Is $630 million really going to be enough? And also a corollary question, is $2.2 billion for all the once-through cooling repowers going to be enough? And the heart of the question is, $2.2 1.2 billion, wouldn't that buy a couple of football fields worth of Tesla Powerwalls or some other source of energy storage? What would it cost the utility to completely commit to repowering Scattergoods 1 and 2 with all renewables and storage? Of course, the other repowers, those decisions could wait till later, but this would be a great first step on the way to 100% clean energy. And that's my math problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is Allison Manis.
Hi, Commissioners. I'm Allison Manis with Lane and the Repower LA Coalition. I'm here to speak on a different matter. I'm just here to raise attention around the Equity Metrics Data Initiative. As we know, there were 2 releases last year, and we've been eagerly awaiting the first 2018 release. We're kind of disappointed that it hasn't already come before the board because it's been such a critical tool for our organizing and engagement with low-income residents that wouldn't normally be part of the political process at DWP. It's been a tool to promote transparency, but so far the data sets have been less than riveting. We're really hoping that with the next release this year that there's more detailed, data sets in Excel form so we can really see who's being served and how, and that there's more of an analysis. There had been conversation around having an academic partner that, to our knowledge, we're not aware of has been awarded. And we really need academic experts in the room to make sure that there are strong recommendations that come out of this and that it's not just merely showcasing if there are disparities, but rather guiding the DWP to address them in a smart and expeditious manner. So we really wanted just to urge that the board ask for the staff to bring forth the equity metrics soon. So thank you.
Thank you.
We do have one more speaker, Mac
Okay.
Shorty.
Good morning. A lot of happy faces. Glad to see you all. Today I stand here speaking for the underserved communities. We've been waiting for this for so long. You guys agreed to the equity metrics. We haven't seen any results. Are we dragging our feet? Or we got our coats caught in the door somewhere? But the underserved communities, Watts, South LA, all those neighborhoods, we deserve this. We want it. It's about time. It's not hard to put the plan together. We come to the table, we're not voices. We just want to be heard. We just want to be a part of the process. That's all we're asking. We're asking, let's get the process moving, because there's so many people out there still getting their lights cut off, getting their power cut off. People say the economy has changed. For everybody that makes over $100,000, yes. But if you're living down in those underserved communities, paycheck to paycheck, it's hard. You have to decide, do you pay DWP or you feed your kids? It's rough out there. It's really tough. And we all sit here, and it's hard to say. I mean, at one time, I even had to sleep in my car, and it wasn't a good feeling. But those people that don't have power down there, don't have water, the homeless people don't even have nowhere to bathe. But if we sat down as a community, as a board, as a commission, and we all work together, we could turn LA around. There's enough of us in this room that's intelligent enough. All of you sit here, $400 suits, $500 shoes. Underserved communities have to put cardboard in the bottom of their shoes. Some of them wishing for a job, wishing for something to do, wishing to just be able to get up in the morning and even taste a piece of bread with butter on it, some jam. But yet they deserve this. They've been neglected for so long. I stand on the Watts Neighborhood Council because I want to serve those underserved people. I started a nonprofit to help underserved communities, to come out and speak to people, because their voices need to be heard. They really don't believe their voices are being heard. And I tell them they're listening, but sometimes we have to come down and remind you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was our last
Commissioner
speaker.
Vasquez.
Is there anyone related from our staff from Equity Metrics here?
The corporate performance group isn't in the building, but we do have it planned for the second meeting in April.
2% around
Yes.
Equity Metrics?
Yes.
Okay, I would like to suggest for us to, I know that we have a group of stakeholders that we have been engaging around Equimetrics, and I would like them to be informed that this is when the presentation is going to take place, please.
I'll ask staff to send out an email so that everybody can be aware.
Thanks. And also, I would like to see included was our rollout plan for folks in the community to learn how they can use Equimetrics. You know, this tool it can be quite complicated for folks. So if you can also include in the presentation for the second week of April how we're engaging folks in the community that can use this tool and that they can learn what is it for and how do we utilize it here and how they can also utilize it will be really helpful.
I will do that. It's actually the second meeting in April.
The second minute. Thank you.
Yeah, and please refresh my recollection, but I do believe there has been an original presentation that was made, just kind of setting a benchmark, and I don't know if that presentation is available to the public.
There was a presentation made earlier. It should be on our website. There's actually an Equity Metrics website that I'll double check to make sure that these questions before the board meeting can actually be addressed. Yes.
Yeah, because I know that has always been a priority for Commissioner Funderburk to make sure that information is transparent and available.
Everybody don't have internet, though. You should make it available at the customer service center. Some people can't afford internet.
That's a very valid point.
That's fair. Thank you for suggesting that.
Thank you. General Manager?
Just
Disguise.
in disguise, yes. Dave is out of town today. Just a couple things I'd asked Rich to give us a latest on the snowpack and the results of the storms and what happens now in the world of official water measurements.
So we have had a good March, very good March. You know, we were tracking at just above our worst year ever in terms of our average weight of our Owens Valley snow courses, and with the continuing snow and rain that we had, we are projecting to be, in terms of our snow courses, to be at 70% of normal by the end of the year, and the end of the year is Sunday, basically April 1st. The total runoff is made up of the snow runoff, the snowmelt runoff, as well as the stream flows that we already have, and then the rainfall. And putting that all together, we project that we're going to be at 80% of average. Average is a term that's just that. It's a combination of highs and lows. And so even within this particular year, we have six snow pillows. The one that showed the greatest gains is at Mammoth Mountain, and they're going to be just under 100% on that snow pillow. But as you go further south at the Cottonwood Lakes, which is just east of Owens Lake, up in the high Sierras or the eastern Sierras, that's only going to come out at about 30-31%. So even within the total of our snow courses, you have a wide variety of occurring. And even though the LA rain isn't made up of, obviously, of the runoff, in Los Angeles, we're only projected to be at 35% of normal for rain within the LA basin. The final results are going to be coming in next week. We're doing, at the end of this week, and then Monday and Tuesday, doing the final surveys on those snow pillows. I'll be going actually up at the Mammoth one myself. I like to get up there at least once a year and do that and kind of see our product sitting on the ground for myself. Bigger context, averaging then, you know, we were all talking about, are we in a drought? Are we in a drought, that kind of thing. Just remember that 6 out of every 10 years we're below average on our snowfall up there. So more times than not, you can bet that we're going to be below, but it's those 4 out of 10 years that are way above average, and they usually come in waves that balance out and get that average. So that's why things like storage is important, not only in our system, but on the state system as a whole.
I had a question, Mr. President. On that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Rich,
Yeah.
and thanks for the responses to questions I've had. Is it possible that we could continue our communication effort to the ratepayers so that they clearly understand that there are a couple of things that we're basing our presentations on that, that don't apply anymore? We're in a new normal, as Mayor Garcetti has frequently reminded us in our Mulholland moment, or whatever we want to call it, where we need to look at climate changes that are taking place. So we're looking backwards for our averages, but that was when the climate was was not quite as warm, and the snow pillow wasn't melting as fast. So I just think it's important to remind the ratepayers. I'm concerned that that the ratepayers aren't getting the message somehow, because the use of water has gone back up since the drought seemed to be so important. It's gone back up, and with all the money we've invested in turf rebates and everything else, to see the usage go back up, and maybe that's because of economic development and other reasons, tells me that this is one of those things that we just need to keep reminding ratepayers about. And we need to use the Neighborhood Council DWP memorandum as a vehicle to communicate to all the neighborhood councils on a regular basis. We need to use our community-based organizations through Chief Sustainability Officer Nancy Sutley and her group to reach them on this issue, and because I just don't think the message is somehow getting across. I have a question for you on this Mammoth water. Is that water as usable as the water that's further down by Lone Pine, Big Pine, Independence?
Yeah, all the snow courses represent actual areas that we do gather water from.
Is it a weighted average, or is it an average by measuring station? So, for instance, if there are 5 stations that we get 50% from one, and then 5% from each of the others, and then a little more from the others, is it weighted by the percentage of water
it
that
is,
we get into the aqueduct?
You all get this graph there. So it used to be, that graph just used to be Mammoth as kind of the telltale. And a couple years ago, I changed it to be a weighted average of all the courses. And the reason why I picked out in my example was Mammoth and Cottonwood is because they both are 25% each of the total. So Mammoth did great, but it's only 25%. Cottonwood didn't do very great at all, and it's also 25%. But when you put that all together for this year, we're at 70% on our snow courses.
And when you say 25% of the total, do you mean 25% of what's going directly into the aqueduct, or 25% of the total that's being infiltrated and going into the aqueduct?
The latter. It's the total runoff.
It's the total runoff.
Right.
So it's not necessarily what's directly going into the aqueduct, but also what's being used to recharge the groundwater up there.
Yeah. The latter. Yeah.
The latter.
But based on that, then we project how much we're going to bring to the city.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is it just?
So to answer your first comment, so our marketing group here at Water and Power is working with the mayor's office, and after April 1st next week, when we get the final picture, that's when we'll start rolling out our messaging, and it's going to be exactly as you said, that nothing really changes whether we have a lot of water or a little. Our future resources portfolio is based on us always conserving water, so that's how we get water conservation as a way of life. The climate has always known that there's climate change, and if you go back, and we have records going back hundreds of years, you can see these periods where we're very wet and we're very, very dry. So no matter the reason for climate change, climate has changed dramatically in the United States, and especially in the western United States that we know for sure. So that's why we always have to be prepared for those periods of extreme dry conditions.
I actually wasn't thinking about climate in that sense. I was thinking about evaporation. So there's one thing in terms of wet and dry, that's cyclical over time, but there's another thing in terms of what's on the ground and what's evaporating.
Right.
And I just don't think that, I mean, are we, in projecting, are we applying forward-looking climate models versus backward-looking averages?
I think that's caught up the evapotranspiration in those hot and dry periods that we know of.
Are we applying forward-looking climate models, or are we applying backward-looking averages?
Most of the backward-looking, although Alex Hale from UCLA is helping us on the Eastern Sierra snowshed, and so we are developing models looking out in the future, and we have had climate studies, and we do expect, so you'll get essentially the same precipitation, but you'll get it more in rain than you'll get in snow. So you get the same amount of runoff, but the profile as it gets delivered to the aqueduct will change over time in a more dramatic fashion.
That makes it more difficult to handle, right, in terms of management?
It will increase the need for storage, maybe where we didn't have it before. And right now we're working on groundwater storage alternatives south of the Owens Valley that we can capture periods where we have more flow than what the city can drink. And so we're trying to get ahead of that change in climate.
So is it possible that we haven't built into our financial models that the stormwater capture that we actually need based on forward-looking climate models yet?
Well, in terms of developing more storage, specifically it's not in there, but we're actually, moving forward in developing those storage basins.
I'd encourage that. I'm familiar with Dr. Hall's work, including his most recent paper. Same with Dr. Gold's work, who has received as much, if not more, attention. I know Nancy Sutley is very up to date on this and knows where things are going. So I would encourage water and sustainability to make sure that we're investing adequately in that infrastructure.
We do locally. We've got in our financial models to develop local resources, and what I'm stating is we're going to add additional stormwater capture in like the Antelope Valley and those areas between there and the Owens Valley.
Okay. And as to the reductions that were promised, the state water boards have been tweeting about this recently.
Right.
And there's some back and forth going between the drought
Yeah,
monitor.
so I've got more information on that. So I believe
can you maybe give a background?
Yeah, so the state had put out, continually puts out information on how all regions in the state are conserving versus the 2015 base year, 2013 base year. And it showed that the South Coast region was in negative conservation, so they were going above what they were back in that base year. Turns out that that there was an error in the numbers provided to them, primarily by us. We had a meter that was registering wrong. It's actually in our favor, and it will change that consumption level of the whole South Coast region to be just about the same, maybe 1% lower than what they were conserving back in that base year. Basically, when LA sneezes, the whole region catches a cold based on our water use.
So does that mean that we're using as much water as we were in 2013 for LADWP?
The South Coast region as a whole is water and power is still conserving at 15%.
So we're 15% below.
Yeah,
actually. So I think that
now.
message really needs to get out. I haven't seen it, and I think that we need to take credit for what we're doing. I don't know what the other water supply agencies are doing. They got turf rebates from Met. They didn't amp up their turf rebates like we did. We supercharged them. We put them on, steroids, and really got people to invest in this. We got neighborhoods, small and large, to invest in this idea. And the fact that we are down 15% from 2013, I think it's not like we need to put it in people's faces, but we should let people know that we are not the South Coast. We are LADWP. And I think that one of the reasons that we have shown that is that we made a commitment, and we made it through the neighborhood councils. The neighborhood councils were very instrumental. The individual councils were very instrumental through their own sustainability and green committees at making sure that that message got out. So, so I think that making sure that it's great to have the results, but I think that telling our story is important. But pushing people to get us back to the 20%, I think, is something that we need to convey as well.
I agree.
Yeah. If I can just comment, as Rich said, we're waiting. We always wait to see what April 1st brings as the official number because we're never sure how the winter's going to play out. So the plan has been to wait for that number and then work, as he said, with the mayor's office to relaunch the campaign. We are actually one of the few cities that have turf rebates now because Met does not offer any money. So most cities only provided the Met money; they didn't provide any of their own. So, so we do still have a viable program going on, which we continue to push. And I think as the summer goes on, we'll see a lot more participation again in that. But it's there's been a lot less investment in conservation by Met regionally, and so we're working with them constantly. Our directors are working, trying to get more money in that pot because that helps everybody else around us as well as helps backstop some of our own programs. So.
And there is, so, we got down to that 20% a year ago, and that was coming, out of 4 or 5 years of drought. So I've got staff looking at now, and you can see every time you come out of drought, there always is kind of a rebound that's happening because a lot of the messages, or a lot of the conservation is just due to the message that's going out there. But the initial reports look like the rebound from this last drought is less than ones in the past, which means we have more hardened conservation because of things like our turf rebate program, where it's not so much dependent on people's behavior as it has been in the past. So that's a good news story as well.
I look forward to hearing that story told.
Good.
Thanks.
Anything more?
I have one last bit of my report. So I've asked Reiko just to give us a brief update. No one's seen it because we've done a good job of managing it, but we've actually had 19 gas curtailments in the last, since the beginning of the year. And we've been managing through that. I'd let her tell everybody about that. People think we've cried wolf in the past about this being a possibility. It's actually happened. It just hasn't been visible to the public because of how we've managed the power system. So you want to tell us a little bit what's going on?
Sure. So heading into the winter season, there was a winter assessment prepared by the joint agencies, meaning the California Public Utilities Commission, the California Energy Commission, the California Independent System Operator, and LADWP, as well as SoCalGas. The concern was the SoCalGas system had 3 pipelines out, one for routine maintenance, one experienced a rupture that took out an adjacent line. So we had 42% less flowing gas coming into the basin. So there was a real concern if there was prolonged cold weather, it could impact the reliability of both the gas and electric system. So heading into February, we were doing fine. We had a relatively warm winter. And in preparation of this, some of the things LADWP did, we had normal mitigation measures that all the agencies coordinated. In addition, DWP has a series of planned transmission upgrades over the next several years, and that is key to increase the amount of imports we have for renewable energy and will be key to reaching higher levels of the renewable portfolio standard. One of those upgrades was scheduled to be this winter because that's our off-season. Well, it's the gas season's peak season, so we couldn't actually, we had to defer that upgrade, and hopefully we can still get it done without jeopardizing our summer season, because again, we have a series of these planned in the next few years that helps us reach higher levels of renewables.
How long do they take, the upgrade?
Some of them are 4 months. Some we can break up into segments, which is what we did this time. Let's see what we can get done, that if something happens or the weather projected to increase, we can patch it back together. And but when we do these, when you take out the transmission segments that bring in imports, that means you actually would run more in-basin gas to keep our system reliable. So recognizing there was an issue with potentially being able to serve all the gas, by deferring that, we could look at what's the minimum amount of gas we can run in the basin. So when the cold weather spell hit from February 2nd through March 6th, we had curtailments that whole period where we were required to reduce our gas usage by 40%. It was not only LA, it was also the other, the CAISO and other Southern California cities. And as a result, there was very well coordination amongst the agencies. We did not have any blackouts or anything associated with that. However, we did have to increase our imports. We had all the renewables going that we have, well over 2,000 megawatts, but we had to increase our gas generation in Nevada, and then finally rely on increased coal usage in Utah to be able to serve the DWP load. So we had, unfortunately, more greenhouse gases, and we also had an increased cost to our ratepayers because of that. But we were able to keep the system reliable and provide power to all our residents and businesses.
So what are the implications of this for future planning?
So there are a number of things we need to do. Key is our in-basin study, where we are looking at the individual details of the transmission system, because we are so constrained in the basin on the types of outages, construction upgrades we can do to increase our capacity to import. It will take time to do the necessary upgrades and transmission improvements, as well as technology that needs to be developed that can provide that type of generation support we need for when your renewables aren't here, and address the intermittency of frequent interruptions and pretty significant volumes of those interruptions. And right now it's limited on the technology that can meet that.
Why am I thinking that this has significant implications for our repowering study?
This obviously will reflect that. Our repowering study will look into detail of the individual distribution system. It takes past data and as well as future load. And part of the challenge of that is increased efforts for increased electric transportation, as well as electrification of building stock. So if we are going all in on electric, then we need to make sure that we have a reliable system that can develop it because of the widespread economic and health impacts if you can't.
Thank you.
I had a quick question to follow up on that. On the transmission that you mentioned, Reiko, again, this is a backward-looking versus forward-looking thing. We have projections in that say that we are going to have 10 times as many electric vehicle chargers or equivalents within the next 4 years as we did 2 years ago. You mentioned difficulty in the infrastructure, the transmission infrastructure. I was at I think it was Barron Ridge that I was at recently, where the switching station that we just.
I'm pretty sure it was with the solar fields and yes.
Yeah, and that took how long?
15 years, planning through construction.
From groundbreaking, how long did it take?
10 years.
Okay. So we're talking about, is it realistic that it's a 10-year project to upgrade our transmission infrastructure in basin? That's
in basin and out of basin, both.
So we'd need it out of basin also to account for the other things that you were talking about.
Yes, we have to import more. Just the sheer volumes of power that Angelenos use. I think we, and especially as we move towards more renewables, the ability to build in-basin wind, solar, geothermal is limited.
So have we started planning for these transmission upgrades, or are we just sitting around and waiting for things to happen?
So one of the things the power system has done, we have it in our transmission plan. We're also aggregating the thousands of projects we have planned in the pipeline amongst the different divisions to get them prioritized. And this is also in a period where we're experiencing rapid retirements and loss of qualified, skilled internal staff. So trying to manage through all that and still maintain the priority of the projects. We have those in the planning system, and we'll be engineering them, but because of our limited resources, it's the same folks that are responding to storms and outages and issues that happen locally. When we have to deploy all our resources to handle local issues, that takes away from the normal maintenance and upgrade projects that we're working on.
So is it accounted for in the budget?
In the 10-year budget, it wouldn't, because what you approve is the next year's budget. So next year there would be pieces of the planning for those projects, but not the actual engineering, construction, development.
I'd like to see the 10-year budget, please.
See the what?
10-year budget.
10-year budget.
The 10-year
We can do
capital
that.
budget specifically for these types of issues. And I'd like to see that way before the final budget comes before us, like in the next week or two.
We will get that.
I have a
And
question.
what you see in the budget will be, it's multiple years, so these projects, they all have their life. So what Rego was talking about, it's a lot of these projects in the planning phase, in out years, which wouldn't really be being approved, because we'll get the current year budget, the future next year's budget. But in the out years, you'll see the monies hitting for these projects. But like you said, a lot of them are long lead time projects. Some will materialize as material purchases for cable and things like that our crews will then install. So they may show up at the board in different forms as projects to get done, but the materials and the labor for them will be in the out years of the budget, spaced in as part of the regular work of our folks.
Yeah, I'd like to see the budget, and I'd also perhaps like to schedule an appointment so that I could see the live Excel model with dependencies and alternatives analyses, so that you could run through for me. Okay, thanks.
I have a quick question, Rico. I'm curious. Are we also talking to the PUC about why SoCal Gas will have planned a maintenance at the moment, knowing that this is a high season where we use the most gas?
That is part of the discussions. I don't know that I have, and the interagency discussions relative to the electric system, SoCal Gas isn't in there. The governor's office is involved also to help coordinate all these meetings. There are at least 2 weekly calls with technical folks as well as principals of the agencies. I don't know the reason for the the one that was out was it was a prolonged outage, and I can understand when we do our system upgrades or whatever, frequently you have a project that will expand many months, and this one appears to be one of those. The rupture that created took out 2 lines obviously wasn't planned.
Right.
But it just happened to
I'm
coincide.
especially curious since we're, relatively vulnerable because of Aliso Canyon. The other question that I have is, are we tracking the costs incurring because of the vulnerability that creates not having or having the Aliso leak?
We are. Yes, we have a specific work order or a job that we track all those Aliso-related costs, the incremental cost to us.
Okay, time to move on.
Yes, sir.
Comments from commissioners on agendized items and requests from commissioners relating to departmental operations. Commissioner Broad.
Thank you. Thank you. The particular subject that I wanted to comment on is not on today's agenda, but I believe it might be on in 2 weeks. And that's the subject of the electric vehicle charging stations. And I know that it's part of our infrastructure to say that we want charging stations across the city based on equity metrics, and that's a good thing. But what I'd like to know is where the EV stations, charging stations are now, where they are currently. Is there a map that shows where they are now? And also, I'd like to see it with an overlay of what we're planning to do, perhaps in the next year. So if the staff could have that for us in 2 weeks at our next meeting, I think that would be very helpful to see where we are now and where we are headed. Also, what I have witnessed is people who are parking in charging station parking spots and not charging their cars. So I go over and give them the evil eye.
I do too, thank you.
Yes.
You look
And,
very fearsome.
and I do look fierce. I do look fierce. So, you know, I think that we need something that will enforce it, you know, and I don't think we have a municipal code for that yet, right? But I think that we could talk to one of our city council members and see if we could get that and post a sign. I have talked to our PR department here about, you know, maybe a sign in green that says this is for charging cars, you know, and you can only do it for such this amount of time, so that people are not sitting there for hours or parking there for hours where it's intended for charging. So I'd like to get kind of some support from the board that we could talk to a city council person who might carry this, and that we could enforce this and have some municipal code that says that you're parking here, you know, to charge your car.
Good idea.
So
That should be easy to do.
Okay, good.
when we come back for that report, we'll also provide that information of what exists now, what type of enforcement is there, so you can
Yes.
decide if
Yeah,
more
I'm not
should
sure
be.
there's any enforcement now, but
But anyway, we're not putting any more in the valley, so.
I'll give you the evil eye in a minute.
Well, I have a quick question following up Commissioner's Barad. Are we part of the app, the Parkland app that tells you where the different charging stations? So I have a hybrid electric car, and this is quite difficult sometimes to find where, and also you
Yeah.
find them and they're taken, or they don't work, or they're not where they say they are.
I'm going to ask Marv Moon, who's in charge of our EV program, to come up and discuss what is available on the app and what we can see.
Where's my app?
Good morning, Commissioner. Marvin Moon, Director of Power of Engineering. Yes, there are several apps
Plug
out
share.
there are several apps out there that have the locations. The individual charging networks like ChargePoint have their own. The best one I'm aware of is PlugShare, because
I can't hear you.
Plug
I'm
Share.
Plug share.
PlugShare.
That's an app?
It's
Yes.
an app, right? They track both. They get feedback from not only the networks that provide paid services, but they also track non-networked chargers through a social media input. So they have the best reporting that I've seen for what chargers are in LA.
Excuse me. Why should we have to look at an app? If I want a gas station, I can see a gas station. Why do I have to have a phone with an app to look and see where I can charge my car? Aren't we asking too much of the public to say, oh yeah, you can look it up?
No, actually, the app is very popular because it's mobile, and people, wherever, they may not be familiar with the area.
But suppose they don't have that. Suppose you're talking about a part of our community where they don't, you know, maybe seniors who, you know, parking their brontosaurus at the curb. I don't know. They don't have phones. They don't have that ability.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's possible.
And parts of the city where they don't have the phone.
Right.
You know, I mean, you're technologically, you know, okay. But some people are not going to do that.
Yes, I understand. A couple of thoughts. A lot of the cars now have built-in navigation that will show charging locations. It's sponsored by the like Nissan or Ford, whoever. Also, the state transportation department recently in the past were putting out signs on freeways and things like that, but it wasn't kept up. But I understand they recently reissued some guidelines around street signage for charging.
Street sign.
Street signage. In
That
fact, you
would
can
direct
see.
you to a charging
Right.
station?
In fact, you can see some around our building. There's some signs that say EV charger.
Okay.
Marvin.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Commissioner. I actually feel that you don't see charging stations that you will find gas stations because we just don't have enough of them. And I know that DWP has made an incredible effort to increase their budget, and it can be quick enough, at least for me, to see more charging stations where not only where folks have electric cars, but where there's low penetration of EV, so that those folks eventually also make the switch.
Right.
and get there. So I guess as we utilize, and I completely agree that there are folks that maybe have a smartphone but don't know how. My dad, I mean, he would be definitely stranded if he had an EV car, and he has an iPhone and a Facebook account, but I don't think he would be able to kind of navigate that type of engagement, technological engagement. I think that besides the signs, I think what our best allies are the community members that have been really advocating for this type of infrastructure in our city. And we have a lot of agencies, also other commissions, that work with communities, the neighborhood councils, and we need to just let them know. And as we deploy, and you're fully aware, as we deploy more charging stations, we need to figure out how to let people know where they are. That doesn't maybe require the type of technology, but it requires old school word of mouth, and I think that when you live in a neighborhood like I'm a local in my neighborhood, and we know we don't have any charging stations, and I would say it's probably like a middle class, neighborhood, and as soon as my house right now on Plaque Share is public, so whoever has a electric car and is stranded, they can come and charge it in my home. But not everybody can do that. That's also that's a service that
I think I need to interrupt for a moment. Council has reminded me that we're probably violating the Brown Act by getting into all of this detail during the comment session. Council?
We're not violating the Brown Act, but this isn't EV chargers are not an agendized item for today. It's the commissioner comment period, so it'd be better to have this discussion during an agendized discussion of EV chargers.
Is this coming back to us at some point soon?
We have, the next thing we were coming back for was the renewal of the rebate program, because it expires in 1st of July. So that it'll be a revamped program, and that would probably be about the late May timeframe.
That's an
3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
So, Council, give us the parameters about the lines to be drawn between comment and agenda items.
So during the commissioner comment period, it's generally an opportunity for commissioners to make requests like Commissioner Barr did of bringing the maps back, or for commissioners to make comments on agendized items or things that they would like to see come before the board in future board meetings, as opposed to getting into a in-depth discussion on any particular issue, especially one that's not an agendized item.
Okay, we'll keep that in mind.
I had one comment separate aside from the previous discussion. I think it's important just to be kept apprised if in fact there are going to be tariffs on steel coming in from other countries, how that's going to affect our budget, given the fact that we do use so much steel for our infrastructure, and such a huge part of our budget is allocated at this point So not only kind of to have a better understanding of how that will impact us and the ratepayers, but also if that's going to force us to look into using alternative materials if there is a price increase in using domestic steel. Thank
Certainly.
you.
Good. Other comments from commissioners on agendized items?
Yes, I do. I have comments and requests. I wasn't at the budget meeting I missed the part of the budget meeting last week, or 2 weeks ago, but I would like to get an alternatives analysis, in April, with what I believe to be should be an increase, further increase in the budget for stormwater capture related to finding additional sources of water. This is something that the LA Regional Water Board, now chaired by Madeline Glickfeld, then chaired by Irma Munoz, both of whom are still on the board, has asked that we participate in. They've been very encouraged by the work that this agency's done on finding new stormwater and infiltrating. And this would be geared to finding commercial lots that are that have the rate of return, a return on investment, just like the what was presented and unanimously approved. It wasn't presented last board meeting, but it was unanimously approved by the board at the last board meeting on stormwater capture. So try doubling it, and I'd like to know what the alternatives analysis is for stormwater capture. I'd also like to see alternatives analysis on vastly increasing funding for outreach for sustainability, energy efficiency, and water conservation through our community-based organization partners. Gretchen Craig and Nancy Sudley's group have shown themselves to be very good arbiters in, even with politically charged, it's a way for ratepayers to control the spending of the money by doing it in-house. Increase it by 5 times and show me the rate impact analysis. I'd also like to see funding for the Neighborhood Council DWP MOU line item separately for outreach on sustainability, energy efficiency, and water conservation. And energy efficiency would include transportation electrification. To use the Neighborhood Council MOU as a vehicle through which all 96 neighborhood councils could be used to get the word out. Why don't you start at $3 million, okay? And I'd like to know what the rate impact is. Capital budget, I already got the request in on the capital budget. 2 other things. When I first got on this commission, I spent the first year not doing any of this stuff, but working with President Levine on Owens and trying to save the ratepayers money there. We saved about $750 million with a 10-year deal that we're trying to keep that in place. So I didn't get into anything really until 2015, and one of the first things I get into was trying to make sense of our solar and understanding all these RPS and GHG targets that are supposed to be meeting in Mayor Garcetti's sustainability plan goals. But a couple places that I think we've fallen short are trying to come up with a plan on community or shared solar. It's taken too long. It took too long before. We had an imperfect program. We passed it as a pilot. It didn't work, but it needs to move more quickly. And I think that some type of, I don't know if we need to bring a new resolution back before our board on what we're doing on shared community solar, virtual net metering, whatever. next time. But I'd like to see the board show some leadership and commit to some timeline that it can work out with management that's reasonable on trying to implement that. I see a lot of backsliding. Second thing, on equity metrics. A lot of time was put into it, the development. We had 50 different community partners, some of whom showed up today. It's not acceptable that it be late, period. February and August were the dates in the resolution, and apparently there's a misunderstanding about those dates. So I'd like to ask General Manager if General Counsel could develop a resolution for our next board meeting to clarify that those dates are being met, and if there's a need to also clarify and update how the program is going to be implemented for the next several years, since it's been in implementation. It's been kind of in getting off the ground stage for the past 2 years. Specifically, Commissioner Noonan's motion, which she put a lot of time into on equity metrics related to procurement. There was a concern expressed about our computer programming and having to enter data in. Gwen Williams has done a phenomenal job at Supply Chain Services of timely producing these reports every February and August. Why do I know? Because I asked for them. I wouldn't get them if I didn't ask her for them. If anybody's interested in them, which I'm assuming this commission is, because we unanimously approved not just the resolution, but the motion. And for the community members, whether they're in Bedrock, or they're in Watts, or Pacoima, or Panorama City, or many parts of the valley where people are living on fixed income and just scraping by to meet, and not getting their data scraped off, but they're scraping by to make ends meet all over the city. Not just the 40% of the ratepayers that are under the poverty level, but the ones that are on fixed income. How are they going to get this message? How are they going to receive the message? How are we going to get it out? We have to start by being on time. And to me, this is the third report. The last report was a month late. This report's 2 months late. That's unacceptable backsliding for something that Mayor Garcetti's own initiatives pushed in trying to move forward to make sure that the deployment of our resources is more equitable. So I hear the comments of the people who came, and I want to thank the people who came, took their time out of their days to come, because they shouldn't have to come. They shouldn't have to come. It's incumbent on us as a board, and I take responsibility myself, if not more so, for not making this happen and putting it out there. But I want to make sure that it's on the record, it's in public, it's on video, so that our friends in the community can look at the video and they can remind subsequent commissions if there's ever any backsliding on what these deadlines are. Now, as to what the content is, I know from speaking with people at City Hall that it's not where it needs to be. It needs to be more interactive. It needs to be more user-friendly. There needs to be, but we said that we would take time, but that was 2 years ago. And somebody died yesterday or the day before. Her name was Brown. The court decision said with all deliberate speed. I do not want to be associated with an organization that does things with all deliberate speed. I want to be associated with one and be proud to be part of one that does things on time, especially when it comes to meeting a commitment to communities that have been historically underserved or underreached. So I would ask that that resolution be drawn up and prepared. I think it should be prepared for the next meeting. We don't need to have a lot of discussion over it. The equity metrics is supposed to be coming in the second week, is that right, of April?
Second board meeting.
Second board meeting, so I'd like to see it the next board meeting. Thank you.
Other comments by commissioners? Okay, ratepayer advocate.
One comment on one agendized item, and that was the general manager's comments. We do have conservation data on the opa.lacity.org website on conservation through the end of the 17 fiscal year, showing water consumption by climate zone, by lot size, and by rate tier. And it illustrates very clearly the impact of the new tiered rates on conservation, especially if somebody ends up in the third or fourth tier. They seem, collectively, they seem to change their pattern pretty fast. That is on the website. It was part of the DWP MOU presentations on the first Saturday of the month at 8:45 a.m. down in the DWP cafeteria conference rooms. So it's an under-attended meeting. It offers a lot of information, and this was the information from November 7th. Then on other items on the agenda, we have no comments, although if questions arise, we may have comments.
It's very helpful information. Thank you. Okay, we move to item 6, management report, customer journey management update.
I will see over here. Good morning still, yes. This is an update we promised to the board. Sharon and I were here a few months ago talking about our customer journey mapping and trying to manage our customer journey. And so she's back with,
That map looks like a customer journey.
well, this is what we're trying to get away from, yes. So Sharon's here with me again, as well as Andy Leonard, who heads up our water quality division, to talk about some of the things that they're doing. At the time of our last presentation, we likened some of the customer journey to the games of chutes and ladders. It turns out we're not alone, because someone else in another industry had the same kind of situation for their customer service. And you know, there are somewhat predictable processes, but as you're well aware from calls that you get, they're not always as predictable as they should be. And certainly from our standpoint, hooking up new water and power customers is core to our mission here. And as we see the amount of construction going on throughout the city, and we know the economy is rebounding, we have a tremendous number of service requests in, both on water and power, that need addressing. And so the only way to really do this properly is to get in front of it and try to change our processes. Last week, Mike showed us a new vision for the company, new branding, and a new image. We are working closely with his team to make sure that the work that this group is doing fits hand in hand with that. But a lot of the issues we have are the words we use and how we communicate and how simply we do or don't ask questions of the customers to help them find their way through the process. We've had a team that's continued to work with our customers. It's an interdisciplinary team. We one of the advantages in my role is it's able to bring both water and power and our customer service folks together. The folks that manage customers on a daily basis are as excited about fixing the situation as our customers are. I didn't do that. There we go. You know, it's as frustrating for our folks in the office when they can't deliver the level of service that they'd like because they're either resource constrained or we don't have good handoffs and a good process. And so before we talked about where we were going and what our plans were and how we're making improvements, we've got a lot accomplished to date. So Sharon's going to go through what we've done and some of the successes we've had, and then where we're headed for the future.
Good morning, Commissioners. So it's a pleasure once again to join Marty and present to you a report on our progress of further positioning the customer front and center in all we do. And it's both the heart of our strategic plan, and it's really also the right thing to do. I also have here with me Andy Leonard, the Director of Water Quality, and we'll be hearing from Andy in a little bit as he talks about a customer journey management effort going on right now in the water system. So we can really break this down by saying we've got a team of knowledgeable people in a room. They map what the customer goes through, they reveal where the pain points are, and then they ask the customers what the pain points are, and they combine both of those discussions and create a plan of action. So back in October, we talked about a team of employees who took a customer experience and sought out the customer pain points. This was a big deal
Sharon,
because
you asked the customer at what stage in the process?
we asked the customer right after we have an internal cross-functional team, and the team discusses what all the different journeys the customer goes through. Then we create a focus group or some sort of a feedback survey initially to find out from customers to validate what we believe the actual customer journey is. So it's very early on.
These customers are after their whole process is over, so they have expertise in it, or?
Right. So the way we select focus groups, we sometimes segment them. For example, for this particular new business process we were analyzing, we tried to segment commercial customers that had gone through, like developers that had gone through it just for water service, some that had gone through for electric service, some that had been, depending on how many years they've been working with us. So we try to get a really diverse array of opinions on this process.
Okay.
So the reason we are so concerned and really focused on this particular customer journey, because, and I'll restate this, I stated this in October when we spoke, we have 50,000 of these electric projects a year, and we have 5,000 water projects a year. And it really is a big part of what's driving the economy here, and so we wanted to focus on this one. So the pain points, and just to recall the pain points, not to belabor them, we send mixed signals to our customers on what they need to do next. There's some basic requirements and differences on the water side versus the power side, but we don't really explain those differences effectively. And then the communication and transparency. Fundamentally, the development process starts, pretty well when the customer calls and asks the team what they need to do and how they need to sign up. But then it breaks down, especially when these orders go out to the field. We don't have a really good feedback loop once they go to the field. So we felt that customers told us they felt we left them in the dark.
Do you, in terms of being left in the dark, does this include phone calls not returned?
Correct.
And staff changes midstream that the customers don't know about?
Correct. We got the type of feedback that don't call an ESR, an electric service representative, they'll never call you back. Find the name of their supervisor, or just all sorts of comments like that, or who knows what's going on. If you get a phone number from DWP, just hoard it because it's gold. And yes, we got all that feedback.
Okay.
I had a question on the feedback. More than 50% of our residential ratepayers are Latino. Many of them, not all of them, but many of them are in households where at least one person Spanish is their first language, or it could be not just necessarily Latino, but other immigrant or other communities who speak something other than English. How are we teasing out the cultural competency of DWP when we do our focus groups? Are we measuring it? Are we adjusting for it? Who's doing it? If we're not doing it, why aren't we doing it?
So particularly with the focus groups, we'll have questions in those focus groups and talk about, is the communication clear? Do you need bilingual? We'll ask those types of things. But even more to your point, and I'll talk about it in a few slides, what we've integrated in our improvement process is an automated feedback pathway to say, was this process clear? Were you able to understand it? What would you suggest? So we're that was never, we never had that before. We were never asking customers what their experience was after they installed a new service with us. So we had no insight to how adequate our communication really was. So going forward, we are doing that.
Were there any Spanish speakers in the focus groups, people who spoke Spanish primarily?
You know, I don't know that right now. I believe we actually had one segment that was a Spanish-speaking segment, but I'll follow up and verify.
How many, was that 1 out of 50 segments or 1 out of 10 segments or what?
It depends. You know, we have focus groups going across the board for many different reasons, and I think so. These were primarily, well, the focus groups here were primary developers because they were the ones that really weigh in on this. So I don't know if we specifically had a Spanish-speaking focus group for the developers. We do have them. We have a lot of different processes that we're analyzing.
I would just say we got to know our ratepayers. When I first got on the commission 5 years ago, I sat here and I asked somebody who was in communications how many, they didn't even know how many Spanish-speaking ratepayers we had. We got to know. I think, by the way, I want to thank you for kind of, this is so important to go through this self-evaluative exercise, and for you to put it out in public, Marty, I think is even more important because you're making yourself vulnerable, but ultimately as a commission we have to take account for this and make policy, course corrections if necessary, but we can't do it without the information. This is so important. So I hope that you're not taking, you or any of the staff or management aren't taking any questions I ask, is like, this is a shortcoming. I think it's so important that we're doing this, and we can help you tweak things if there are some cultural things that we haven't looked at. But it's so important that you bring this to us. I want to thank you for doing it, because it's rare in my time as a commissioner here that I see the information like this being brought to the surface. So
we'll look into the breakdown of the contracting community, because I know there's folks with different cultural backgrounds there. Interestingly, a lot of these folks are customers for our services, but most of them won't be ratepayers. These are people who will develop something for someone else to become a ratepayer down the road. So it is kind of a select group, but we'll make sure that we're getting across the board comments, because there are developers that may not feel they're part of the main developing community and feel like they don't have the same avenues for resources and such.
Thank you. Okay, so we listened and made the experience better for customers, and I wanted to show, look what the team has accomplished. The phase 1 efforts are essentially complete. So the customer checklist that has been tested, and the link is ready, and we're just waiting for a few approvals for the content, but we're ready to put that, and that should be online very soon. We are now routing correctly and consistently across Power, Water, and the Customer Contact Center, because we're all using the same checklist, so customers are hearing the same message from all of us. We have changed the name. I think this is very interesting. For externally, on the water side, we'd say water new business, and on the electric side, we'd say service planning, and that means nothing to a customer. And so when a customer would see that on our website, they think that new business means they should click on that because they just moved and they want to sign up for service. And that's not what it is at all. We really are talking about if you want to do construction or renovation. And so we've clarified that. So in future, customers will clearly know the difference between start a new account with LADWP or do construction and renovation. And we also, again, as I spoke with Commissioner Funderburk, just specifically, we've implemented a closed loop feedback system. So once a customer has gone through this process with us, they will automatically be asked if they would like to give us feedback on that process. And finally, we have a standing group of citywide interagency partnerships. We have the Department of Transportation, Bureau of Engineering, Department of Building and Safety. We have ongoing meetings with them to make sure that we are coordinated, because you see, we don't control this entire process, but we want to make sure that we are in sync across the city. So this is, I like, this is the fun part. We'll see exactly what we fixed. In reworking the customer experience, we tackled the website challenge first because it's central to the pain points from the customer's point of view, and they want to know how to get a project started. So on the left is the Before Customer Service tab on our website, and the Before website has loads of valuable information, but it's not organized or useful. It essentially says, call us, with no information about the overall process, so they don't really understand it until they have to call us. I sort of equate it with going to your local pharmacy and trying to find a cold remedy, and they say, well, you know, it's on aisle 7, and you go to aisle 7, and then there's 11 different cold, so, you know, you just don't know where to start. So in our Before website, the electric services customer is presented with 11 choices, and the water services customer is given 8 choices. So on the right is the After Customer Service tab on our website. Note we have updated the language to construction and renovation, and it's to prevent the customer confusion when they want to establish new service, and we believe that this new name change makes it more clear to the customer. So this page shows before and after of the construction and renovation landing page. So first off, in the before, the electric service and water service are 2 separate pages. There's no unified, sort of as Marty was relating to, there's no unified, we are one LADWP. And so now we have this construction and renovation page for both. On the right is the tab with a simplified menu where the customer can go directly to electric service, water service, or shortcut to track existing requests. There's also a brief description. So diving deeper, here's the new electric service connection website landing page. The new website's basic, easy to understand customer checklist written in the language a customer would understand. So for example, we have right there, are you constructing or renovating in a single-family home? Follow the steps below, something that anyone can understand. So it's much easier for customers to find information. We have a step-by-step checklist. The Customer Contact Center, Water New Business, and the Connection Center on the power side are all referring to this checklist, so there's no confusion. And go on.
Oh, no, go ahead. Finish this slide.
And then the final thing is customers can now easily track their the progress on each of their projects.
Yeah, my question was, are we using the new electric services that we're starting up as an opportunity to proactively get the message out about transportation electrification? It seems like in accordance with what I saw from the recorded meeting that Joe Romalo and Mike Basich gave during the last board meeting, that these are new customers, and we are going to be competing against Edison, even though we're not monopoly, because people will have a choice as to where they charge their car. Would they rather charge it at home? We'd rather them charge it at home if it's in our territory, right? If it's part of our business model that we're using to make up the reduction from energy efficiency, from loss of business, and from other things that are reducing electricity demand. And Marty Adams, I know that your wheels are going in your head right now, and so I'm looking forward, you know.
So you're thinking that once we have someone that wants something, use this as an opportunity to have that relationship and push out information.
That's
Have you
what
thought
I would
about this?
do
Have you thought about that?
if I were actually making money in this job. I'd look, how can I increase my revenues and make up for lost, people whose matters settle, and how do I increase my revenues in the future? Give them an opportunity if we're engaging with them. So I would like when I saw, most single family will require 225, why not make sure that they are pitched on increasing their electric board? So this is in front of the meter load. It's a big deal. People have a choice between using us or going to Edison where they might work in Santa Monica or Beverly Hills or El Segundo or one of the other cities that's adjacent to us. They'll have an option at some point. And at some point, they may even have an option on fuel cell cars. It'll be, they'll be powered by natural gas reformers that reform natural gas CH4 into H2. So we're going to be competing for all these customers. And so I would just say, sharpen your elbows, get your best, game face on, and let's win them. So I don't know if that's been thought about, but to me, it's like it's a no-brainer. Get those electric boards, use every single opportunity to amp up the electric boards right now if we want these customers.
Good idea.
All right, so let me switch directions now and talk about water quality. Another one of our efforts is the water quality customer inquiry journey. It's a mouthful. Water quality is vitally important to everyone in Los Angeles. That was kind of a pun, it's a mouthful. Okay, sorry. We expect our water to be pure and safe to drink every day. However, when the water mains break or weather events occur, we have quality issues that follow. When this happens, customers contact us to report their issues, and they expect quick resolution. It's a very emotional call that they're making. So just a quick snapshot, there's about 700,000 water service connections. We get about 850 customer inquiry calls each year coming into the customer contact center and the water quality hotline. This is actually a very large improvement since we went away from the open reservoirs when we used to receive about 8,500 a year. Now we receive 850 a year. 80% of the customer calls involve an on-site inspection. 98% of the customer inspections are completed within 2 business days, obviously indicating the sense of urgency around there. And water quality complaints are part of the board equity metrics. In going through the water quality customer journey, we found that the water quality division actually already has a tremendous track record of maintaining high quality water. And when issues arise, they are very diligent in responding and correcting. And while our customer experience is good, we have some opportunities to improve. And the improvements are more subtle adjustments and less redesign as compared to the new business customer journey that we just spoke of. So great water quality is important. Customer confidence, we feel, is even more important. So to map this journey, we once again assembled an expert team cross-functionally to capture as-is customer experience and start to deconstruct and reconstruct where necessary. And I have the good fortune to participate in a wide variety of strategic planning sessions across the department. Many of these organizations have as their components of their strategic plans a focus on the customer experience. And it's an exciting development. It was part of the reason that we wanted to come back to the board today to explain that this is becoming so integrated in what the department does. Water quality is one of those organizations, and so it gives me great pleasure today to introduce my co-presenter, Andy Leonard, Director of Water Quality, who will talk about how his organization is improving the water quality customer inquiry journey. Andy?
Thanks, Sharon. So as Sharon mentioned, we did have a multidisciplinary cross-system team collaborating on the effort. We took a picture because a lot of the folks couldn't make it today. In fact, Jonathan Leung's in the Philippines on vacation. But we do have Rick Silva and Hildreth Anderson with us. A couple of the other folks seated. Michael Renwick, who is one of our samplers, and Charles Lumpke, the supervisor. As Sharon mentioned, the idea of a customer journey map for water came out of our actually Rich's session in October on the Water System Strategic Plan. And October wasn't very long ago. I had mentioned during that session that I was, as the incoming director for water quality, I was interested in seeing how we were doing with customer service from the water quality standpoint. All I had to relate to in that case was back in 2008 when I was part of water distribution, we'd done a focus group actually on the new business aspects of water distribution, and to me that was the approach that you would take. Sharon was very adamant that that wasn't what I was looking for. That was just a single part of the process and the tool, and she was very convincing that we wanted to do customer journey mapping, which, you know, as you can tell, she's very passionate and has a lot of conviction, so difficult to argue with, and I didn't know any better, so take her advice. What I did want to point out for the focus group, and Sharon mentioned it earlier, that's typically on the assessment side. It's just one of the tools as part of the process. So moving to the next slide, and this is much more of an eye chart. This is an internal document that the team comes up with over a series of meetings. It takes a bit to assemble. The first meeting that I sat in, it was very rudimentary, but as you talk through the process, and we've got a bunch of different team members that have different exposure and experience, it really starts blossoming. And as you can kind of see here, fairly complicated. It talks about the touch points and handoffs and some of the areas where we can stumble or drop issues, and allows us to focus in on items or processes or handoffs that we can really improve.
Excuse me, does your staff understand this?
The staff developed this as part of the process, yes.
I mean, it's very complicated and kind of daunting. I mean, I just kind of gave up after a while trying to figure out where everything was going. And I mean, do you think this could be simplified at all for everyone's,
Well, I'll say that as part of this, we look at any areas where we could simplify it. That's not always the case, eliminating steps or the various organizations and the handoffs.
But one of the challenges, we had a similar map last couple months ago looking at for outside customers, is for us to actually be able to map and understand amongst ourselves exactly what are all those steps, because this is where things go wrong when someone doesn't understand the entire train of what happens. And so part of the whole deal for us is to map this internally, so we not only know where we can make improvements, but also so it's very clear as to who's handling what when and how does it get passed from one person to another, because those are the gaps that we experience that cause us problems.
well,
with
it
our
also
customers.
has time elements here all the way across.
Not trying to nitpick, but even with my reading glasses, I can't read this.
Right.
So,
Yeah, it really, the intention was not the details on this. It's part of the process. Sharon?
It's to really, it is a tool. It's part of this entire tool that we use, and it is to really understand. We really try to get into the customer's head. You can't really see, but the far left column is what we call sort of the pre-journey of the customer, and that's really, so we spend a lot of time in these groups letting them understand that this might not be the very first time a customer calls us. They might have called us previously about a water quality thing, and maybe we never called them back. Or they might have called us about an outage, and we never gave them an estimated time of restore. So these customers are coming to us maybe not sure that we're really going to respond effectively, or they might be coming to us off of a really wonderful experience starting their electric service. So we really try to this tool helps the cross-functional team really get inside the customer's head and understand what we're putting customers through. And to your point, Commissioner Barad, if we are able to really clean up a process, this would organically become simpler, even internally, because we've gotten rid of the problems that were causing customers.
Do you have a workshop with your staff just on this?
It was multiple workshops. I sat in one, and it was very rudimentary when we first started. Just a handful of bubbles, kind of towards the beginning, part of it pre-filled out on the customer end, the initiation of the problem. And that's actually one area I wanted to just touch on, because when I mentioned my previous experience with the focus group, that's already, when we were looking at it, and I had some like buzzwords. We were looking at a very process-oriented approach. How can we fix our process? And what we were really missing, and I didn't realize that until going through the customer journey mapping, was a customer-focused approach. So we were very us-focused, and we would look at a very narrow aspect, because it just, what aspects fit into our process. But this introduced, and like Sharon was pointing out, the far left side of the chart is the initiation of the issue, and that's completely invisible to us in our process. When the individual
this concept sounds good. I will not be able to understand it unless I can read it, and I would appreciate it if you come back with something that's readable. I mean, it's all Greek to me, or worse.
I think the idea is you're not supposed to be able to read it. It's just the visual to show that the process there. And so the idea of these things is you do map it out, and the point is to take it from this to something that is just 1, 2, 3.
Well,
So they're just showing you their initial work ethic. This isn't the final thing of what they've come up with. It's just an example of showing you how the team goes through solving the problem.
Well, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, in all honesty, to have something in front of us that we're not supposed to be able to read.
Yes.
I mean, okay, so.
Can I make a constructive suggestion?
Yes, sir.
Throw it away.
One of the first things I did before coming onto this commission, I talked to a friend who had been a general manager here, who is a prominent investor. And he said, Bill, whatever you try to get through there, just remember DWP is a group of very, very smart engineers. So when you communicate with everybody, you have to do a Gantt chart for everything. Okay, so what I want to tell you is that this is the public right now, and we don't have any idea what this says. To me, your narrative without this actually sounds great.
Yeah,
to
me too.
In fact, if there were a game of chutes and ladders here, I think I would seriously think the same thing. In fact, I can actually think of how I'd make this look like chutes and ladders to communicate it to us. It's not just us; it's the public, and so I think that coming back with something that just simplifies this in a way that doesn't look like the Harry and Louise Clinton healthcare plan from 1994 or 93 would probably make the presentation a lot more effective.
Excuse me, if you look at page 2, this is chutes and ladders.
Yes,
Yeah,
I know.
well, we saw that.
So maybe it would be best to move on to the next slide, because that's
The purpose
exactly.
really just to show that
That's what I was going to say.
these are the steps. And
I think in all fairness, I really respect both sides, but I think it's very important for us to note that this particular page specifically states this is an internal product not shared with customers. I fortunately can read it, and so I'm sure if it was on a poster-sized board, I think it's an excellent tool for your staff. I don't think this is what should be advertised to the public, because I think it has way too much information. But in all fairness to our staff, it does state that this is to be used as an internal document with expectations and a timeline and a process.
So we can keep going here, but I would appreciate it if you would blow this up so I can read it at some point, even if we're not supposed to be able to read it.
Yeah.
It would be
it's
interesting.
not normally on that small a sheet. No.
Understood. So we're now taking just the top dark blue portions, which is the critical aspect of it, and stepping through the process. So this appears much more straightforward. However, it's important to understand on water quality issues, it can be very emotional, because this is something that can affect your health and safety for you and your family. And we always have to keep that in mind. So first, the customer will recognize that they have an issue. They're not necessarily going to be sure what it is. Typically, they're going to be around, water color, the smell, taste, maybe particulates, and then they have to start the process of figuring out how to resolve that. And it might be by talking to friends or neighbors, going on the internet, or calling us. And we've put a couple of the numbers here that they can reach us on. They can call the call center, or they can call directly our water quality hotline. As part of that, we'll step the customers through a series of questions to try to determine what the issue is, because we've got to be able to respond appropriately. Many times it can be fairly quickly resolved. A great example in my mind is a common issue with water heaters. So customer calls, they have dirty water. Through the series of questioning, we're able to determine that it's strictly on the hot water side. And we know that being a single source of water coming into the building, that means it's now isolated to somewhere along the hot water piping or the water heater. So in the case I have in mind, that was a matter of doing the annual or semi-annual flushing of the water heater to clear out the sediments that build up over time as a natural aging process of that water heater. So if something along those lines doesn't happen and the situation isn't resolved through a series of questioning, then we need to send someone out there.
Does this also take into consideration people who call because of they think they have a billing error?
This is just for, we're just mapping the one piece for water quality problems. So
Water
if
quality.
customers, if Sharon's folks in the customer call center get a call and they say have a water quality problem, this takes it for the first square of that
Okay.
journey, that route, to make sure that we know how we're handling that
But
customer.
part of the whole thing is if somebody calls about a billing problem, is that?
That would follow a different journey path.
That's a different journey. Well, that's back to page 15.
Different ladder.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so moving on then, if we have to send someone out, we'll take samples, do lab analysis if appropriate, and get back to the customers with the results. And there may be additional work on our end. So going back to the focus group we talked about earlier, once we've mapped this all out, come up with the various touch points, we want to validate the experience of the customers. And there's a number of things that came out of the focus group and the water quality aspect. Moving right along to the next page. 3 primary areas that we can definitely improve on: better information. Our customers want information on water quality, how to self-diagnose issues, but first and foremost, they want to be sure that their water is safe, and that's completely understandable. Better communication, improve two-way dialogue during the inquiry process, and follow up during testing. So sometimes the testing takes a bit of time just by the nature of the tests that have to be run, and we have been very poor at letting folks know what's going on during the testing process. So we'll show up, do the initial work, and they might not hear back from us for a week, and that can be very concerning, so we need to improve that. Finally, a feedback channel. They want to be able to tell us what's working and what's not working. And Sharon mentioned earlier that's being built into virtually all the processes. Moving along. So I'd mentioned earlier this came out of our strategic planning session in October. This doesn't look nearly as impressive as the earlier slide as far as what's been completed, but I did want to point out that started in October, so not bad. We've got a few things done, and we got a lot to do, but I'm excited about what lays ahead.
Okay.
So, focusing on better communications, both Sharon and I have action items on that.
Okay, great. Thank you, Andy. We are now actively working on about 12 customer journeys across the department. Imagine all those teams with the same dogged determination to make our customers' journey better. Imagine those same teams building cross-functional relationships with each other that will last longer than this experience. As our efforts across the department continue to expand, imagine all of us making the customer journey better. So where do we go from here? Where will our journey take us? The key to our going forward success will be to continue to apply a disciplined framework to each valuable customer experience, ensuring we remain self-critical and self-aware in order to guarantee our customers receive the service they respect and that they deserve. The road is not always easy, but we owe it to our customers to ensure they always receive our very best. And this next slide depicts the current 12 customer journeys we're working on and how we keep track. And again, I want to reiterate, behind all of these journeys are cross-functional teams that are building relationships and really truly understanding our customers. So thank you for your time today, and thank you, Marty and Andy, for their help and support of this effort. And we'd like to take any questions you may have. Thank you.
So I have a comment. Even though I couldn't read that page,
Bring your really big one.
and I do want to read it at some point. I just want to associate myself with Commissioner Funderburk's comments. I mean, it's very heartening for you guys to be doing this. It's obviously important and needed, and this is extremely encouraging. And you guys deserve a lot of credit for stepping up to the plate. And I'm very hopeful that this will have the kind of impact that we all want it to have. Other comments or questions from commissioners?
On a positive note on the water as well, I saw it in action when the Watts tap water crisis happened. Johnny and Brionia were phenomenal. I know they put in many overtime hours. They worked with Reverend Shorty over there and other people in the Watts community when there seemed to be a crisis in confidence. Very quickly, because you leaned in to it and didn't just play defense. You leaned in and you kept on leaning in. The confidence of the community slowly came back. The only thing that we need to do is make sure that the people in Watts that aren't all in LADWP service territory know that we don't supply all the water to Watts because there are a lot of other water systems around there that have issues. So I look forward to continuing this and then taking the feedback that you've gotten from the focus groups, using this tool and taking this tool and taking it out to the neighborhood councils and letting them know what you're doing. Because I think this is how trust is built and how trust is rebuilt. And I think that the community really greatly appreciates it. Thanks.
I'd like to add, thank you. I want to congratulate you for taking a step to honoring the challenges that we have to really serve our customers in a way that they can relate and understand. I have a quick question. How this relates to our billing, and and how the customer journey is also translated on the way that we bill our customers. And in my personal experience as a DWP customer also, it can be quite challenging to even just read the bill and figure it out when was 1 month bill or 2 months or 3. So could you explain or share what are some of the things that you guys are doing related to the billing and to make it also easier as explained here, and the steps that you guys are taking to really make it a customer service that is a lot more pleasant and easier?
So as you can see from the chart, we are addressing when customers call about a high bill or, on the water side, or a low bill, say, my bill was only $5, I know that's wrong, they get nervous. And so we're going to go through the same tool, but that we're not going to show you again, but we're going to go through the same tool. But what we found, to your point, we start noticing a theme on some of these customer journeys. And one of the themes across all of the customer journeys is we don't follow up with the customer enough. And so, for example, a customer will call maybe about a high bill, and the CSR will talk them through and explain and things they can check and different programs they can participate in, and maybe we go out and do a field investigation, and we do all these wonderful things, and we're actually really focused on wanting to solve the customer's problem, but then we never loop back and explain what we did. And so we're finding that, to your point, we think that this effort is going to be, we're going to more consistently follow through with our customers. So we are working on this.
Thanks.
Thank you very much for an excellent presentation, even if it was illegible.
One additional comment. They have included us in several of the focus group efforts and have been keeping us up to date on this. This is really a quantum step up for DWP to be doing this. And it's also interesting to see recognition on the business side in some of the customer discussions going, oh, boy, we look bad there. We ought to fix that. So I think this is a very helpful process. And I can imagine other items being added to the journey road mapping.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, monthly report, item 8, power system, January.
The report is in your packet, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Hearing none. Discussion with neighborhood council representatives on any neighborhood council resolution or community impact statement filed with the city clerk which relate to any agenda item listed or being considered on this agenda for the Water and Power Board.
No community impact statements or formal positions were filed by any neighborhood councils on the items on today's agenda.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting of March 13th?
So moved.
Second, those in favor? Aye. They're approved. Okay, we have to pull 2 items because of recusals. Item 12, I need to recuse. Item 23, Commissioner Vasquez needs to recuse. I'm told that we should pull item 14 for discussion and presentation. So are there any other items that have not been pulled that any commissioners wish to remove from the consent calendar? Commissioner Barad.
Yes. Item 19, I would just like to, some clarification.
Okay,
And,
that will,
yeah, I'm sorry. And item 21.
we will pull items 19 and 21. Any others? Is there a motion to approve items 11, 13, 15, 16, 17, 18, 20, and 22?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
Those in favor?
Aye.
Those named items are approved. So the items that remain to be discussed are 12, 14, 19, 21, and 23. I think we should push 12 and 23 to the end because one of each of us will have to be recused for those. So we'll move to item 14. This is power purchase agreement between LADWP and Pacific Corp, an Oregon corporation relating to electric service for Milford Wind Corridor Phase 1 and 2 projects. DWP numbers BP 16004 and 16005 respectively. Gentlemen.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Mukhlis Buyan, Assistant Director of Planning and Development.
And I'm Jan Lukianek. I'm the Manager of Transmission Contracts.
Go ahead.
We are ready to answer if you have any questions.
Okay. Who requested that this item be pulled?
It was the,
No, not one. Oh, wait, which one are
it
we
was
on?
the
14.
power
Oh,
system.
14.
Power system, exec office.
Oh, wait, that's not me.
Well, are there questions on this item?
I pulled,
No, you pulled 19 and 21.
yes.
Okay, well, if there are no questions, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second, those in favor? Aye. Nice presentation,
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you.
Item 19, Commissioner Barad had wanted a clarification.
Yes. Hi. Yes, I wonder if you could give a little background and more clarification on how the meters will be used for customer billing. If you could, and load forecasting.
Okay. Bassam Abu Shakra, Power Engineering Division. So these net time of use meters are mainly used for industrial customer, commercial customers, and also they're used for solar installations. And when a customer requests a dedicated EV time of use meter.
A dedicated,
time of use EV meter. So
how would they do that? And why would they do that?
Part of our rebate program for electrical vehicle chargers, we give $500 a rebate for residential chargers, and then we give additional $250 if they install a dedicated time of use EV meter, because then they can take advantage of the 2.5 cents discount for off-peak charging. So normally the off-peak is from 8 p.m. to 10 a.m. during weekdays and weekends and holidays.
If someone has a charger
Yes.
and can they use it like a smart meter and sell it back to DWP? Sell the power back?
Currently, we don't have that. We're working, and we're going to bring in the next 6 months a board package for you to approve what is called a smart charger. There's a company right now that has a charger. It's a level 2 charger, that requires 240 volt, and where they don't need a smart meter or a time of use. That has a built-in smart meter with Wi-Fi that can keep track of this stuff. But currently, no. There's no what is called vehicle to grid. It's becoming popular with light duty. I just want to make sure that when you buy a car, normally it comes with an adapter, and 80% of our customers actually they just use their receptacle. They don't put a level 2 charger. They just plug it into your 110 volt. It just comes with a typical adapter, and you plug it in because normally it takes 8 to 10 hours to charge your car.
Really?
Yes. Level 2 is when you need to charge your car within 2 to 3 hours, like we have in our customer parking here.
Yes.
That's a level 2 where you can charge your car, not your the big battery, the cars, the light duty they have, but your typical car, you can charge it in 2.5 hours.
Okay, so right now we don't have the capacity or whatever to
use the battery.
To use and to credit people.
Correct.
Right?
That's not right now. We don't have it, but it's part of the the future. It's part of
That's
our.
what I was going to ask you. You see this as part of the future of
vehicle to grid
vehicles?
integration. It's actually part of the plan for all utilities. It's even being discussed at the California Air Resource Board. It's being discussed at the California Energy Commission, and it's going to be big when the large buses, the large trucks, where they have large batteries. Just like give you an example, a typical level 2 is a 7 kW. That's what it is. It's rated 7 kW. We're helping Metro install some infrastructure. Their batteries going to be, the battery charger is going to be 450 kW. So you can see the large batteries that are installed on the large heavy-duty trucks and the large buses.
Do we have our engineers are working on this?
Well, like I said, it's part of the plan.
Yes.
And we know it's not set in stone, but we know it's coming. We know it's coming. We discussed it with a lot of other companies, and we're looking at it probably in the next 2 to 3 years. It's even mentioned in our integrated resource plan, what's going to happen in the next few years. Yes.
So are you saying we would have to outsource this to another company? Or?
No, not outsource. It's just we need to know how we're going to capture that.
Okay. How do we capture the power? Okay.
It's almost like we resolved the solar, and we have net time of use meter or either. So now it's integrated into our grid. In the future, we have to develop how it's going to be integrated into our grid.
Okay.
I would like to add one thought on this component. People have talked about this kind of integration for 40 years. The problem is standardizing it across the industry, because if DWP goes its own way, nothing will happen. It has to be standardized so that the car manufacturers and all the utilities, not just nationwide and worldwide, have similar processes and technology for this, and that reduces the cost of this. So really this is a standard setting process. It's a key component of this.
But if DWP led the way, wouldn't other utilities follow?
They would need a time machine.
I'm sorry, I don't hear you.
They're too late to lead the way.
It's too late to lead the way?
Correct.
I don't understand that.
Other jurisdictions are ahead on this matter.
I'm a stereo here. Okay. If you could explain The meters will allow our customers to access their consumption data via the internet. Could you explain that to me?
Marcel DePaula, I'm the manager for meter engineering. These meters in particular, these are mainly designed for our larger industrial commercial customers. So these are installed
commercial.
at our large refineries, our large, like UCLA, our large customers. So what they have is these individual customers have a cell phone meter. That meter communicates 3 times a day to DWP. DWP will post it on its portal, and these customers actually can log in and see what their usage is from the previous day to do certain curtailments or do certain things to adjust their loads so that they don't go to higher rates or higher tiers. But it's mainly structured for our larger industrial commercial.
Of our 300,000 commercial customers, how many have these types of smart metering systems?
These, of these smart AMI ones, there's probably about 100,000 or so that have been installed. And in particular, customers are actually logging in, actively using them. It's about 40 or 50,000.
Ultimately, when we have smart meters across the board, all of our customers will be able to see their use as they want to, but that's a much larger process because we have over 1 million power meters and 700,000 water meters. So, that's a major project that's being worked on, but also that's tied to making sure the billing system's able to handle the information, and so it's got to be done all cohesively. Otherwise, you'll have pockets of information that don't talk to each other and won't be useful. So it's got to be done very, very intentionally to make it done right, have it done right.
So I guess this is one step before we get to smart meters. Would the ideal step be to have smart meters?
Yes, this is a prior generation to the smart meter ones. These are more dedicated to a one-way communication scheme, as opposed to the smart meters that are constantly talking back and forth. This is just them reporting back to us. We create a portal, they can log in, but it's not the active.
Is there a reason why we're not investing already on smart meters and having that back and forth communication instead of investing on these type of meters and just having a one-way communication?
This is replacing a function that we do now with this level of customers. So again, the whole smart meter issue all becomes how we collect the information, how we house it, how we make it available. So when we make those decisions, and there are a lot of changes in that technology and evolution. So when we make the decision of how we're going to actually integrate that, we'll have to do that across the board. So in the meantime, there are some smart water meters, some smart power meters, and different pilots going on. So this is continuing this service for our large customers that need this level, and as Marcelo said, they actually have people who use so much power, they're really trying to manage their power use, managing their peaks, because it may change the tier that they're in and other things. And so these are very large customers who also impact our own power demands quite a bit.
Do we have any feedback from those large customers as to how they use this information?
Do we have much information from them? I'm not sure about that.
I believe we have the rates group that actively interacts with them, and they basically discuss their bills, and they discuss. They have customer service people that interact with them, and they have usually these customers have dedicated account reps, and they'll use what information comes in, and they'll have discussions based on what's out there.
Because these companies are trying to manage their power bills, because it's a significant part of their business costs.
Yeah, okay, I just wondered what the result, if they're feeling that this is working, that this is helping, do they manage?
Well, as
It'd be interesting to see what kind of feedback.
About half of them actually access their data on a regular basis, seems like.
Well, this system has been used since like the early 2000s, and basically these customers have been using it to control the tiers that they go into. A lot of these do use this for controlling their demand charges.
But do we have any communication with them as to the feedback as to how this is working? What kind of, it seems like they're using it, but we don't know what they're
still using it.
Yeah,
and they're still using it. Yeah. Well, they're still using it.
There's an account rep that we call premier accounts and other account reps dedicated to these customers. They're in constant communication. So if there's any issues, we would know about it. But as far as I know, it's working, and they log into it. Yes.
Yeah.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, David.
Commissioner Broad, item 21.
Okay. Yes, gotcha. Okay.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Dave Christensen. I'm the manager of the Project and Construction Management section of Water Engineering and Technical Services Division.
Okay, my question has to do with, I understand that we're installing a new pipeline to replace a water trunk line that's operating at the airport on Century Boulevard that's deteriorated. Now, when I read this, it seems like that we're picking up the tab for the entire project. Is that correct? And how does, why don't you let's start with that.
Okay, we're picking up the tab for the trunk line installation in the Lawa airport area. So other Lawa projects, we're not paying for those, just for our pipeline, trunk line installation.
So it's our pipeline. We just find it more convenient that the portion that's going to run through their property, that they do the construction, since they need to integrate it with all the other work they're doing to upgrade the airport facilities.
So I see that it's our pipe that's deteriorated, but if it's, I guess my question was, if it's going through the airport and impacts the airport, why are we still paying?
It doesn't just serve the airport, it serves the entire part of the city. It's not a dedicated, it's not a service line.
Yes.
It's a main trunk line that just happens to run through their property.
So what you're saying is we would have done this regardless of whether there was an airport there or not?
Correct.
And to the extent that it serves the airport, when the airport was first built, they invested in the pipe to supply them. And so as we renew infrastructure everywhere in the city, the first pipes went in by the developers, but then after that, it's the shared costs that we replace those pipes over time throughout the city. So in this case, this is happening now with the airport pipe. We had a similar situation when they redid the front of the LA Zoo. We had to replace a pipeline, and because of the zoo contractor and the construction and the level of complexity, we elected to have the contractor. We funded him to do that work as part of his project, so our crews weren't in the middle of somebody else's crews, and they could coordinate the work. The work has to be done as part of our infrastructure replacement. It just makes a lot more sense to have the airport be responsible for this rather than us trying to intermingle ourselves or interfere with their schedule and upgrades.
So there was some shared cost here?
Well, they paid originally for that pipe, they paid all of it originally, or whatever portion they used, but now, when we replace pipes everywhere, that comes out of our infrastructure replacement costs.
Okay, because it says that the pipeline is in conjunction with the improvements at LAX.
Yes, ma'am. It's with all the work they have going on there, it's easier for them to coordinate the installation of this because they're going to be hiring various contractors to do various things, not all the same contractors. And so the coordination aspect of this just lends itself well to having them install the pipeline. We're purchasing the pipe. We're doing the design work for them. We're going to have construction managers and resident engineers on site to ensure the work is done to our quality standards. But as far as the installation itself, it's just easier for them to do it. The coordination aspect of this, if we tried to hire a contractor, we'd be having to send them in, pull them off, send them back in, and they can handle all that themselves.
So you're saying that the airport is going to install the pipe?
The contractors hired by the airport.
The contractors hired by the airport will install the pipe?
Yes, ma'am.
But we're going to have an on-site supervisor to make sure it's done correctly?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. I mean, we won't be actually supervising, but we'll be doing the inspection to verify that it has been installed to our standards.
How old was that pipe that was existing?
I think it was installed in the 40s or 50s, I believe, and we don't have any pictures of this, but the soil characteristics in that area are very aggressive, and it's starting to eat away at the pipe, and we've had some leaks in that area that have been fairly significant as well.
And do you find that the traffic on Century Boulevard, that has anything to do with the deterioration of the pipe?
No, ma'am, we don't believe so. We believe it's mostly due to the age of the pipe and the corrosivity of the soil in that area.
Okay, because I wondered when the UCLA on Sunset Boulevard, when that burst, there was some talk about all the traffic that was there, and did that have any impact?
I don't recall if there was there. I'm not sure how deep that pipe was. Typically the pipes are deep enough that they're not impacted by surface load.
Yeah.
If there's a reason a pipe has to be shallow because of other infrastructure, then there's usually some kind of protective concrete blanket or something put over it. But in this case, as Dave said, this pipe's old. It's in very corrosive soil. It was built at a standard different than what we have today, where it's not as immune to the environment as a new pipe is. And we've got a leak history on it. What we don't want to do is have the airport do a bunch of new construction and everything, and then have our pipe go bad right after that. And now we're both replacing the pipe and replacing their infrastructure as well. And so it's an opportunity to move a piece of our infrastructure work forward using them essentially as our contractor.
Oh, okay, good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Those in favor?
Aye.
It's approved. Commissioner Vasquez, would you excuse yourself for a short time, please? We'll move to item 23, resolution authorizing travel of LADWP Board Commissioner Aldo Vasquez to San Francisco from April 11th to 13th, representing the department and board at the Pathways to 100% Renewable Energy Conference. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Those in favor?
Aye.
It's approved. You can come back. The last item I need to be recused from, I'll ask Vice President to take over, and then I will ask council to say his magic words after this item is done.
What item are we on now?
12.
12, yeah. Bye, everybody.
All right, item 12, optical fiber lease agreement number FO 829-11-2017 and short-term IRU 01 lease agreement number FO 830-11-2017 with Google LLC for lease of LADWP optical fibers.
So moved.
Is there a motion to approve this item 12?
I just did.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
At this point, we will recess in a closed session to deal with the items set forth in Agenda Item 7, and in accordance with California Government Code Section 54957.1, we'll report any final reportable actions taken there.